Picture this. It's 2 in the morning in the middle of the Atlantic, when every blue dot on your phone suddenly goes grey. No signal, no data, no nothing. The culprit isn't a solar flare or a hacker in a hoodie. It's the silent snap of a fiber-optic thread, thinner than a human hair, 3 miles under the waves. Most people still imagine the internet as something that floats in space, but 95% of international traffic actually moves through submarine cables, glass arteries that crisscross the ocean floor like hidden train tracks. They're rugged, armored in steel, weighted in tar, but they are not immortal. A ship's anchor drags, an undersea landslide rumbles, or a curious shark takes a bite, and the strand goes dark. When that happens, a tiny, almost mythic class of vessels gets an alert. There are only 19 real cable repair ships on the planet. 19, serving 8 billion users and more than 400 active cables. They sit on quiet notice in ports from Halifax to Guam, their crews living in limbo, waiting for the day the map on the bridge turns blood red. The moment it does, maritime law flips a switch. Airway corridors redirect, coast guards clear lanes, and the ship tears off at flank speed. Because every second a cable is down now costs the global economy a fortune. No spreadsheet can soften. Before those numbers climb, the crew has to solve a puzzle that would humble a neurosurgeon. Find the break in total darkness. First, the shore station fires an electrical ping down the fiber and clocks the echo. The time delay translates to distance, maybe 3,217 kilometers from Halifax, give or take 27. That's the easy math. The repair captain must then plot a search box on shifting currents, factor in seabed slope, trawler movement, and in some places the path of migrating whales the size of city buses. Once on site, the ship slows to a crawl. A grapnel, a steel claw the size of a small car, drops down, unreeling a cable that looks like flattened fire hose. At 4 knots, the ship drags the claw in a lazy S pattern across the seabed, guided by nothing but tension readouts and sonar blips fainter than a heartbeat. When the claw finally catches, the cable is winched up through 6,000 meters of black pressure, past glow-in-the-dark jellyfish and century-old whale bones. The fiber is so delicate, the crew sometimes tapes a single human hair beside it as a reminder. Breathe carefully. On deck, engineers in orange coveralls open the cable like surgeons. They slice away steel armor, peel back copper shielding, and finally expose a glass thread so fragile a misplaced breath could shatter it. Under a white tent, windless, temperature-controlled, they splice in a replacement segment, align the cores to within a micron, then test with laser pulses that ricochet to London and back in 62 milliseconds. Only when the console lights green does the crew breathe. Then the cable is re-armored, paid back over the stern, and buried again by seawater plows. The entire operation can take a week in calm seas. In winter storms, double that. Meanwhile, traffic reroutes around the break like blood-finding detours through capillaries. Latency spikes, stock trades stutter, TikTok views freeze. We barely notice, unless it's the wrong 2 cables at the wrong time. In 2008, one Egyptian anchor slowed half the internet in India to a crawl. In 2022, a volcanic eruption in Tonga severed the island's only link to the outside world for 5 long weeks. And yet, the average person can't name a single cable ship. The fleet lives in what insiders call grey diplomatics, neither military nor civilian, yet essential to both. During peacetime, they answer to telecom consortia, a T&T in the Atlantic, China Mobile in the Pacific, a French-Japanese joint venture off Africa. But in war, national navies may commandeer them under sovereign asset rules. The same hull that patched Netflix yesterday could be escorting a destroyer tomorrow. Classified navies study the fleet's movements like chess, sever 3 cables in the Luzon Strait, and all data between Asia and North America must detour 10,000 kilometers south, adding a fatal 100 milliseconds to command and control packets. That window matters. Military planners know it. So do rogue states, and increasingly, mercenaries who rent mini-subs on the grey market. To stay ahead, the industry relies on predictive maintenance that would make Formula One teams jealous. In a windowless room in Cornwall, an algorithm ingests live feeds, tectonic tremors, vessel traffic, even plankton blooms that lure cable-gnawing sharks. The model assigns a risk score to every kilometer of fiber and can dispatch a crew hours before the break happens. 80% of modern repairs now begin with an AI-generated ping, but algorithms learn from history, and the history of cables is a saga written in copper and gutta-percha. The first transatlantic line in 1858 carried 6 words per minute and died after 3 weeks because Victorian engineers cranked the voltage past breaking. Today, a single fiber pair carries the bandwidth of every printed book ever published, 20 times per second. Yet the basic vulnerability remains. One sheer force can silence it in an instant. Critics argue the system is brittle by design. Cables cluster in narrow choke points. Egypt's twin peninsulas, the English Channel, the Florida Strait. 80% of Europe's traffic squeezes through just 3 beaches. A teenager with a shovel and ignorance could, in theory, yank the plug on half a continent. Governments debate burying cables deeper, laying redundant rings, even moving traffic to the Arctic tundra. Progress is slow. Satellites? They shoulder barely 2% of internet payload because their round trip to geostationary orbit adds half a second of delay, an eternity for cloud gaming or algorithmic trading. Space is backup, not backbone. New players smell opportunity. A private equity firm in Singapore has ordered 2 purpose-built repair ships, each armed with deep-water robots that can weld fiber without surfacing. Startups pitch cable drones, disposable torpedoes that detect bends and patch micro-cracks on the spot. The holy grail is self-healing fiber that fuses under a burst of light, but for now it's lab demo only, 10 centimeters, not 10,000 kilometers. Meanwhile, the existing fleet ages. The average cable ship is 27 years old, 3 times older than a modern container vessel. Steel hulls corrode, sonar arrays delaminate, navigation software ages out of support. Crews joke they sail antiques that save the future. Shipyards prioritize LNG tankers. Cable repair lacks lobbyists. And still, the ships prevail, fueled by a culture of redundancy bordering on obsession. Every spare part exists in triplicate. Chief engineers rehearse mid-Atlantic blackout drills the way NASA practiced Apollo 13. They cross-train as welders, ROV pilots, and paramedics because the next best mechanic is days away. Let me tell you about Adrian, a Filipino bosun who has spent 23 Christmas mornings staring at nothing but ocean. He keeps a photo of Manila under neon rain taped inside his locker. Every December, he video calls his daughter. The feed freezes right when she says, "Papa, come home." Adrian laughs, blames the satellite link, and goes back on deck. Fixing fiber is fixing futures, and his family depends on it. There's also Dr. Meera Patel, a fiber physicist who walked away from Silicon Valley options to ride these ships. Her doctoral thesis on soliton propagation now powers software that can hear a fracture 17 hours before it ruptures. That buffer once saved 8 island nations from total blackout. Stories like theirs vanish in the glare of tech headlines. We cheer rocket launches and 5G towers, things we can see. We overlook the dark workhorses grinding below storm lines. Visibility, though, is a double-edged sword. In 1898, Spanish forces tried to cut America's Manila cable and missed by 40 feet. Today, sabotage is a business model. Sever a valley's bandwidth, demand crypto to restore it. Crews now study negotiation as much as knot tying. Step back, and the pattern sharpens. The most advanced civilization ever built runs on infrastructure most people never notice, maintained by vessels they've never heard of, staffed by professionals they'll never meet. The drama is hidden, the stakes enormous, the heroes unsung. Critical infrastructure only makes headlines when it fails. When future historians survey this century, they may spend as much ink on these 19 ships as on the social networks they salvaged. A cable ship lit by deck floodlights can look like a floating cathedral, embodying a simple truth. Complexity breeds points of failure, and someone must be ready to mend the deepest one. Adrian likes to say each splice is a stitch in a cosmic quilt. We're sewing continents, he grins. Mira calls them synapses in a planet-sized brain. Choose any metaphor you want. The mission stays the same. Keep the neurons firing. Lose that, and the lights of our species blink out, one missed ping at a time. Which brings us back to you, me, and the grayed-out icons on your phone. The next time the spinning wheel lingers, visualize that grapnel claw descending through miles of salt water, chasing a hairline crack no one will ever see. Then remember the 19 ships poised to answer, and maybe, just maybe, offer them a moment of patience. Because if they ever falter all at once, the silence you hear won't be just your device. It will be the sound of the 21st century pausing for breath, waiting for those unseen hulls to stitch the world together again.